compare and contrast the money and power of a Nicky Barnes and his circuit, which includes your mother and father, versus a BMF?
You know, I never thought about this before, but as you pose the question, or the comparison, in the context of their respective times, they were comparable. Nicky was very powerful. When you talk about Nicky, comparing Nicky to Nicky's level of expansion and effectiveness and power to Meech's, they were two completely different type of men from two completely different type of times, right? Like Nicky was a hardcore, everything that gives way to the kind of person that he became in terms of being a cold-blooded, crime boss and so forth. He had been a heroin addict. He had been, broken, the whole broken family thing, young thief, just a bad relationship with his father, all type of stuff that contributes to a person becoming kind of broken as it relates to society. And in contrast to that, Meech, he had a rough childhood in terms of his economic situation, but familially, he had a good family. Father, mother. They had a religious foundation. So there was some collectiveness there, some cohesiveness there, some wholesomeness there, if you want to say that. And so the way that Nicky came into power, and the way that Meech came into power, it's two different vehicles and two different ways of going about, getting to where they wanted to be. Nicky he used murder as a kind of a regular tool, for getting this program to go the way he wanted to for it to go. Meech didn't do that. Meech used his wit, and he avoided, that type of shit. Now, in terms of level of effectiveness and being a boss and expanding the business and stuff like that, Nicky was hitting cats in other states, cats that were getting their thing, then go to other states. That he was doing that. You gotta realize, in that time, there were only maybe 5 major cities. Like, you couldn't really get no dope in Miami. Chicago, Detroit, New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C.
Philly, maybe?
Philly. Right? Probably more so Philly than D.C. at that time, right? During Nicky's time. So you're talking about early 70s to middle 80s.
When you say get no dope, it doesn't mean none was there. It means, in terms of black drug dealers, because the heroin was coming from the Italians, if you were a black drug dealer in Atlanta or Miami or Toledo or Kansas City, you were going to see a black dealer like a Nicky Barnes.
And in order for you to have access to that material, because they were the ones for a long time, as you know.
You said the people in your household were mean. It seems like Big Meech is the opposite of mean. What was the daily interaction? And of course, talk about also, it is a different situation in that Nicky Barnes, or your mother, was in the same community where the person buying the nickel bag, or the person selling it to them, or their lieutenant, or their lieutenant, or their lieutenant is seeing them. Whereas down in Atlanta in 2000, it's kind of like the winners of every city are there to party and get the bag.
Yep. Like I was saying, that there's those 5, maybe 6 cities at that point where there existed an economy worth expanding into from a New York base. And when these guys, when my homies came along, when Meech and them came along, the drug environment, the whole drug terrain had spread to every damn nook and cranny damn near around the country. And you're talking about a far more commonly used drug always than heroin. You know, so they touched more places. BMF touched more places. BMF touched more cities, more states with their program, with their movement than Nicky did. But the amount of money that was generated, say between 50 kilos of heroin. 50 kilos of heroin, back then,
$250 million.
That's a quarter of $1 billion, maybe even, there was points at which it could be $500 million. Now, how many kilos of cocaine do you need to equate to a $500 million windfall? A key of heroin back then was, for the best of them, 120,000. For the best, 90,000. For the top quality, to the people at that level of the game, and they weren't paying for them. By the time they get done with one key, after the breakdown, after the table, after the pitching, after paying for the package, they could have $300,000. Like, the profit margin was ridiculous, for the amount of material that had to be moved compared to 2000 or 90 anything, going forth into the 2000s. Cocaine being the product, you had to sell 10 times, 20 times as much.
What about
it's not comparable.
What about the eye to the future? So, in our research, certainly not all, but at least some of the major dealers from the 70s era did buy property. They did clean up their money to some extent. They did send their kids to college, and get them started in legal business and etc. And we won't say any names, but we both know about many people that are maybe not living off the per se dollars from back then, but are living off things that were set up back then.